Good evening, everybody. We'll call to order our October 24th, 2017 regular meeting of the Mason County Board of Commissioners. We begin with our Pledge of Allegiance. Steve, if you wouldn't mind leading us tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If the clerk would please take roll.
Commissioner, District 1, Randy Netherland.
I'm here.
Commissioner, District 2, Kevin Schutte.
Here.
Commissioner, District 3, Terry Drexler.
Here.
Very good. Item number 4, correspondence and organizational business. If the clerk would please report the correspondence.
First off, Pete Butkus sent in an application for the Transportation Improvement Program Citizens Advisory Panel. The Washington Department of Natural Resources sent a letter regarding timber harvest. Danielle Skeeters-Lindsay submitted an application for the Civil Service Board. Jesse Sims sent in a resignation letter for his position on the Parks and Trails Board. The Economic Development Council of Mason County sent their third quarter report. The State of Washington Department of Health sent an administrative order reclassifying a portion of the Annis Bay commercial shellfish growing area in Mason County from approved to conditionally approved. Beth Gizzy and Carol Rether sent in applications for the Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging Board. And the Port of Hood Sports sent comments regarding the Economic Development Council request for $68,000 from the Mason County Sales and Use Tax Fund.
Okay, thank you. Item number 5 is open forum for citizen input. If a member of the public would like to address the commission on an item that's...
Had a revised agenda.
Ooh, okay, what is it?
It's a news release from Frank Pinter.
Frank? Sorry.
Otherwise, he would have gone home.
The Board of Mason County Commissioners adopted Resolution 45-17, submitting a proposition to the voters on the November 7th ballot that would provide authority to levy an increase in the regular property tax levy. The Proposition Number 1 levy would support general fund expenses and services, including but not limited to basic public safety, criminal justice, and other mandated services. Proposition Number 1 permanently increases the regular property tax levy by 37 cents to a rate of $1.77 per thousand of assessed value for collection in the 2018 and for collection in 2018, and authorizes use of the 2018 levy rate as the base for the computing levy limitations in succeeding years. In order to assist with questions about Proposition Number 1, a fact sheet has been published that gives voters access to detailed information. The fact sheet can be found on the website www.co.mason.wa.us under What's New, or by calling the Commissioner's office at 360-427-9670, extension 419. There will also be some copies of the fact sheet out front for the citizens at the end of today's briefing or session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Sorry about that. Now, item number 5, open forum for citizen input. If a member of the public would like to address the commission on items not on tonight's agenda, they can come forward now and the chair will recognize them.
Good evening, Commissioners. Steve Bloomfield, 391 Southeast Dahman Road, Shelton. I come tonight because we've been working a project out on Harstein Island. And in this process, it's been a long, arduous thing going on for a long time. But I come to recognize some people that Public Works sent out. We had to do some utilities down the road, working with the PUD and the county to make sure it got placed correctly in the road. We put out a plan, we had a meeting, then we did a locate of the existing utilities, found out that whoever put them in got paid by the foot because they went like this down the road. So we had to replan. Public Utilities sent a couple guys out again. We marked it for them. They approved it. Terry Conley, absolutely unbelievable to work with. Did everything he could possibly do to make this project succeed. the staff that they sent out was above and beyond what you expect. And the project went great. I think with their suggestions and what we had planned on doing, the road, actually the county road's better now than it was before. And I think we're all benefited from this. So thanks, my thanks, our company's thanks, and I think the people on Yates Road are all benefited from this whole process. So thank you, Jerry. Your staff did a great job.
I'll relay that. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Steve.
Appreciate it.
And Steve, I got to see the site as you envisioned it. When you're ready to show me, I'd love to see the final product.
When we turn the key, I'm going to have you out there.
Good. Thank you.
It's getting close.
Very good. Thank you, Steve. Any other members of the public would like to come address the commission? Please come forward.
I'm Connie Adams. I live on Sells Drive. And I'm just a little concerned about this proposal for the tax levy. I'd like to see where the money's supposed to go before I vote on something. It's just sort of ambiguous as far as I can see. And I'm concerned about the cuts in the sheriff's department because I think we've cut a lot there and we don't need to. And I really question the feasibility of people that are getting raises and other people that aren't. It just seems sort of inequitable because I know you all have gotten raises and yet there's a lot of people in the county that haven't. So I understand that in the past when there's been a problem with the finances that the commissioners have put their salary or a part of it back into the general fund, and I just was wondering if that had been thought of. And I had talked to you about the about the canine program, and I just think the dog program in Mason County is really a good one. I don't think that it should be in any way stopped. Especially Cindy, the one that, I know it's a volunteer thing and you all probably have nothing to do with it, but it just would break my heart to have her not be there because she's going to Washington, D.C. in a week or two to get a commendation, and she is the best in the United States, not just our state. And I just really feel we need to support her as much as we can. And like I say, I know it's volunteer, but I guess that will do.
Ms. Adams, if I may let you know something on the raises, you asked us if we had given back. Yes, actually, I'm pretty sure all three of us decided to give our raises to go back. That was already decided by us. But just so you know, we can't control our funds or what we get or how much. We get a 1% raise. That's what we get. Everybody else in the county, I think the lowest is 3.2%. There's nobody that's not getting a raise in the county. We're getting the lowest, and then we're giving ours back. Just to clarify that for you. Yeah. So, and again, we can't. We have to give it back in the form of a check because we cannot actually adjust our own wages up or down by law. We can adjust it for the next person or the next term that comes in, but we can't adjust our own. That to protect the government, I would guess.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I'd also like to comment on Ms. Adams' testimony. The question of where would the money go, that's been discussed among the commission quite a bit. There's thoughts about targeting certain departments, and I had proposed that we evenly distribute according to the percentage of the budget that each of the, should the lead passed, evenly distribute according to the percentage of monies that are budgeted to each of the departments. Excuse me. If that were to happen in the even distribution, all but the support services department and our facilities and planning, our facilities, if that were to happen, the sheriff's office would see only a reduction of, I know this seems like a lot, but only a reduction of $350,000.
But they've already been reduced so much, it just,
Everybody's been reduced the equal amount, proportionate to their salary, their budget. So that type of distribution would make whole quite a bit. A lot of the treasurer's office, I think, would see a reduction then of only 25,000 versus the 125,000 that's being requested. So it's a fair way, in my opinion, to distribute it, and I think that in proportion to the total salary, total budgets, I think the 350,000 is still small in comparison to the full budget.
Can you tell me when you brought that forward? I don't recall having that particular conversation in briefings.
In the second iteration of the FAQs, the frequently asked questions, Frank brought forward my request, a distribution of those proportions, a proportionate increase back of the 3.4 million to all the departments.
That's accurate. The problem I had at the time when I was seeing that was the fact that if we take all the money that comes in, that comes in at the full 37 cents and use the full 37 cents, that the very next year we'd have to do another budget cut because we're not preparing for the bow wave, because it'll go up. The cost of doing business will go up by 600,000 next year. So that's why we have to have a full budget hearing if we decide how to do this, if it does come in. Because we don't want the people to have to think that there's not going to be another cut, because that's not going to be enough to fix everything. It's just not. It'll just put a Band-Aid on some of the stuff.
Okay, any other public comment? Okay, moving on to item number 6, it's the adoption of tonight's agenda. I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the adoption of the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded to approve tonight's agenda as presented. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, approval of minutes. There are minutes from September 25th's briefing and October 3rd and 10th regular meeting minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of the minutes September 25th, 2017 briefing minutes, and October 3rd, 2017, and October 10th, 2017 regular meeting minutes.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from September 25th's briefing and October 3rd and 10th's regular meeting. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And motion carries. Item number 8 is approval of tonight's action agenda. Commissioners will read through every item on the agenda, at which time a member of the public or a commissioner can have an item removed for a separate discussion and vote. Commissioner Netherland, if you'd please take item 8.1 through 3, Commissioner Drexler 8.4 through 6, and I will take 8.7 through 11.
Mr. Chairman, item number 8.1 reads, approval of the 2017 Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, or CEDS, project list as recommended by the Mason County Economic Development Council. Item number 8.2, approval for Public Works to advertise, set bid date and time, award contract, and allow the chair to sign all pertinent documents for routine paint line for 2018. Item number 8.3, approval to set a hearing with the hearings examiner for Wednesday, November 22nd, 2017, to consider public comment on the petition for vacation of a portion of East Mason Lake Drive West in Mason County, Washington.
Item 8.4, approval to obtain a loan from the USDA Rural Development in the amount of $163,500 plus bond counsel fee for 20 years at 2.75% APR interest to fund the water meter installation project. 8.5, approval for the board to sign the interlocal agreement between Mason County and Lewis County, allowing Mason County Jail to utilize Lewis County Jail to hold Mason County offenders. The daily bed rate will be $63.56. Item 8.6, approval for the Emergency Management Manager to sign the FY17 Emergency Management Performance Grant Contract, E18-071.
Commissioner, I believe it's $66.
Oh, $66.56. My apologies. Thank you.
Item 8.7, approval of the January 2018 through December 2020 collective bargaining agreement, CBA, for the Woodworkers Local Lodge W38 IAM, representing the Mason County Office of Public Defense. Item 8.8, approval of the Mason County post-issuance compliance policy as recommended by the Mason County Finance Committee. Item 8.9, approval to close the Belfair Veteran Service Office and terminate the lease between the North Mason Resource Center and Mason County with a 30-day advance written notice effective December 1st, 2017, as recommended by the Veterans Advisory Board. Item 8.10, approval of the resolution establishing budget reserves and a contingency policy for Mason County. This item is continued from the September 26, 2017 meeting. Item 8.11, approval of voicing no objections to the special occasion liquor license application for the North Mason Rotary Club for an event on November 4th, 2017 at the Belfair Hub, and authorize the chair to sign the liquor license application from the Washington State Liquor Control Board. Having read through all the items on tonight's agenda, is there a member of the public or a commissioner that would like an item removed for a separate discussion and vote? Commissioner?
Item number 8.5, removed for a separate vote, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any others?
The question on 8.9,
Sure.
what perpetrates the closure of that office? Why is it closing? Why is it going away?
So, and I'll maybe let Commissioner Netherland speak to this, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure. Okay, currently they've had issues with getting the paperwork from down there up here. They have a volunteer issue, and so they went back to the board to see if somebody would volunteer to go up that's a veteran, and they weren't able to find anybody at this time. So with that, they are temporarily, at least, halting until they can find somebody to do that business up in North Mason again. You're welcome to, we'd love to have you volunteer.
Just for my needs, one more.
Yep.
That's the risk you take when you step foot in this room, right? Okay, so any other items for a separate discussion or vote? Okay, so we will remove item 8.5 at this time, and then I would entertain a motion on the remaining items on the action agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of the action agenda items 8.1 through 8.4, removing 8.5 for a separate vote, 8.6 through 8.11.
And I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve items 8.1 through 4 and 8.6 through 11, with the exception of item 8.5 on tonight's action agenda. Any additional discussion?
Nope.
Well, I just, before I call for the vote, I would just like to point out item, I lost it on here. Item 8.8, which is an update of our reserve policies and our budgeting practices. And I want to give special thanks to Treasurer Lisa Frazier for all of her work on this, as well as Auditor Karen Herr, who is not here, and Frank as well. This is an update that was born out of some of the budget issues that we have had over the summer, and I believe it's a strong protection for the taxpayers in Mason County. It says a couple of things. One, it says that we're going to improve the amount of cash flow reserve that we have. That's our general fund reserve. And then we're going to seek over a period of 5 years, beginning in 2019, to establish a contingency reserve to better prepare for emergency and unexpected expenditures that come up. It also limits our spending to revenue that we collect, as opposed to continuing to rely heavily on reserve dollars. So there are some strong protections in there for taxpayers who may be concerned about the fiscal stability of the county, and I appreciate everybody's work on item 8.8.
And it's, for correction, it's 8.10.
Oh, there it is, 8.10.
But we appreciate all the work for everything everybody's done for 8.10 also.
Yeah. Finance committee.
And as a matter of fact, that's what I was looking for. I was going to make a comment and I couldn't find it. Commissioner Schutte, I also appreciate your efforts on this as well, bringing this forward. And the language in this policy, I hope folks take a look at it. It does have a balanced budget commitment and policy in there as well. So appreciate you bringing that forward. We found a vehicle for that.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, with that, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? And the motion carries. Leaves us with item 8.5. We'll have a separate discussion and vote on its approval for the board to sign the interlocal agreement between Mason County and Lewis County allowing Mason County Jail to utilize Lewis County Jail to hold Mason County offenders. The daily bed rate will be $66.56. Commissioner, did you have? Frank?
Yeah, Frank should be a presentation, I think.
Frank, if you wouldn't mind just briefing on item 8.5.
Wasn't prepared for that, but yes. We have an existing contract with Lewis County, as we did also with Forks and with Nisqually. Those were for outsourcing inmates during the construction project that was going on at the jail. Currently, the contract is expiring, and the chief of the jail is looking to extend the contract should there be an emergency in which they would need to, again, start to outsource inmates.
Okay. Any questions for staff? Okay. Okay, at this point, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I can't make a motion on this. There's a couple of problems. First of all, the contracted amount is different in the letter from Sheriff Snaza to what's in the contract. And I think there's just some issues that need to be clarified. This contract is to start January 1st. Upon asking staff if I could look at the 2017 contract, one couldn't be produced, so I'm not convinced we have one. And then I'm a little bit concerned about the inability to be able to stay within the budgeted amount for this. In 2016, that line item was overspent by $820,000. We are at exactly the amount budgeted for this year. And so the historic inability to stay within the budget there has me some concerned, and as well as the issues around the contract language.
I also will not be making a motion. I have many different concerns, the same ones as were just mentioned to start with. But the total that we ended up investing the last time we entered into these contracts is $1.7 million. And we can't afford to take any of those chances right now at all, because we were not able to control it. Once it started, it was done within a department and set forward within a department, and there was even warrant sweeps at that time that ran it up even further. But one of the problems that I have with it, above all other things, is when we did utilize it, it wasn't as though we had any, that we just took the money from here and spent it there. We still spent all the money here and spent it there for the same person. So last year, to give you an idea, Thurston County this year, last year was $44 per day. Forts was $45, at least that's what they were charging us. Nisqually was $65. Looks like Lewis is $66. We were at $108 per day here in Mason County. So if they were to come to us and say that they will guarantee that it comes out of the budget that they're already doing, because we're already paying them $108 per day per inmate, then I would be more open-minded to the concept. But absent of that, that would mean that we pay the 108 and the 65. And I think we need to protect against that. We don't have the money.
Okay, so item 8.5 dies from lack of a motion. And I would just make a comment that I think at some point we need to have another conversation then with Chief Hansen in the Sheriff's Office about contingency planning for if there's a facilities issue at the jail or another circumstance that might come up where inmates may need to be moved around. And so just having a better understanding, I think, of what is in place there to facilitate that, should there be an emergency, depending on whether or not there's a contract currently in place, as you questioned, kind of what our options are. So I would just ask that we have another sit down with them and have those conversations from a contingency planning standpoint.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, moving on to item 9, other business. Item 9.1, approval to appoint Steve Vandenhover to the Planning Advisory Commission for a 4-year term ending October 31st, 2021. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move for the approval of Steve Vandenhover to the Planning Advisory Commission for a 4-year term ending October 31st, 2021.
And is there a second?
No second.
Okay, item 9.1, motion dies for lack of a second. And item 10, our public hearings. It is not yet 6:30, so we will move on to item number 11, our board reports and calendars. Commissioner Edelman, if you'd please get us started, Commissioner Drexler, and then I will finish.
Okay. We started last Tuesday with the Finance Committee meeting. After our regular commission meeting, we had a budget workshop. We have Mason Transit Authority meeting. I met with the Democrat Central Committee to give a description and explanation on the budget and budget issues. I met with Nicholas Carr, who was Derek Kilmer's person forever in regards to some of the sewer opportunities and funding opportunities. Went to the Thurston County PUD water, or PUD to discuss some water issues that we have. They purchased a specific company that has that services water here in Mason County, and so they were going over some of their rates and some of their opportunities, and they have their meeting here in Shelton. I had a board meeting for the Mount Moriah. I went to Bremerton to have discussions in regards to potential sewer issues and hookups. I went to the Realtors Housing briefing. I met with the leadership of the Democratic Party afterwards, talked about some of the issues that are going on. We had briefings again. We had the gentleman from Rispol come and give us a good and great presentation. I attended the North Mason Community Voice meeting, which they actually had a fantastic meeting, bringing in some of the, in their words, the old timers from the area to talk about the history of brush picking and boughs and Christmas trees in our county. It was actually really wonderful, and I've known these people for most all my life. It was a great meeting. I attended the Community Lifeline ribbon cutting here this morning. We had a budget workshop, a finance committee meeting. I've been discussing and having meetings with people in the Beards Cove in regards to some drug house issues. I also had a discussion with their code enforcement person from the Beards Cove HOA. I have a budget workshop coming up in the next week or tomorrow. Then I have a North Mason Chamber of Commerce is having their luncheon. The Lakeland Village HOA is having a meeting. I have a meeting with the cemetery board. Teacher Appreciation Day, which we'll be celebrating teachers. Are you going to be there for that? Because your wife is.
No, I won't.
Okay. So we don't have to worry about that. I'll be meeting with the directors of Hope Resources, I think it is. It's a opioid and drug rehabilitation center that's looking to do some work out here. HOA meeting with Huckleberry Woods. I will also be attending the carnivals of Greatview and Sand Hill. Probably the North Mason football game, North Mason High School football game. That brings us back to our briefings.
Thank you. Commissioner Drexler?
Last week, following our commission meeting, I also attended the finance meeting and our budget workshops, and then the Mason Transit meeting and Port of Allen, and also the North Mason Chamber of Commerce candidate debate. I had some meetings on that Wednesday with staff, and then a recruitment firm for our executive director position for the Area Agency on Aging. And I also attended the public meeting with Thurston PUD1, who is now the water service provider to, I think they said, 144 different water systems or customers here in Mason County.
No, it was 650 or something they have now.
650 customers, 144 systems.
That was a big number when I heard that. I was
Yeah.
really surprised.
Yeah, and frankly, I testified and asked them to, they have a major rate increase coming up for these customers, and their hope is to have Mason County PUD1 purchase these systems. They didn't want these systems here in Mason County. They wanted only the ones in Thurston County, but apparently it was an all or nothing purchase. And so PUD1, and I spoke with one of their commissioners, will be actively reviewing the potential of purchasing some of those systems. So I asked these commissioners, the Thurston commissioners, to please hold off on their rate increases till all these things could happen, just to give them more than 3 months' notice on this major increase. We had a meeting on Thursday the 19th with the Mason County law and justice personnel and behavioral health personnel in the community, and did some good problem solving around after hours mental health services in the jail, and I think that will there were some issues of not getting timely service from the contractor on the after hours, and so I think we've got some problems solved with we'll need some help with the Superior Court judges and some permissions, but I think that we're going to be able to have this solved. And then we had a regular meeting of the Thurston Mason Behavioral Health Organization, and I had an interview with a student at the college who needed to interview an elected official. I also attended the Mason County Housing Issues Briefing. I think that was really, really informative. One of the biggest challenges here in Mason County is that the affordable price for a median income family in Mason County is about the same price for a first-time home buyer. It's $200,000, the price of the home, to qualify for a loan. And that's about the same price of a first-time buyer as basically a move-up buyer, which are the people who already own a home, would sell that home and then move up to the next one, having that product be available to your first-time buyer. So we have two housing buyers competing for the same price range, which means our inventory is very low. There's not a lot of purchasing going on, and it's not good for the housing market at all. They dovetailed that information with the fact that, well, number one, you've got being able to raise the median income in Mason County would be very helpful, but we also have a very low workforce participation rate in this county, which is very problematic. I think the numbers were normally you'd have 65% of the people who are of an age that would be in the workforce. 65% of them are actually working. In Mason County, I think it's something close to 45%, and that's a very significant problem for the county, especially when we're talking about the ability to purchase homes. So I really appreciate the Association of Realtors for doing this every year, and it's good information. I try to get as many people out to those as they can. It's good stuff. And then finally on Saturday, I joined the League of Women Voters in Starbucks in Belfair to answer any questions on their ballots and barista event regarding any of the initiatives on the ballot, specifically the Mason County's Levy Lid Lift initiative. So, thank you.
Thank you. I have to give credit to the League of Women Voters. You guys have come up with some very creative outreach opportunities, even going back to last year with some of the candidate forums that you hosted. And so I just really appreciate the continued creative approach to doing outreach in the community. So thank you. One item for me from last week that I want to just touch on briefly is I had an opportunity to go tour Belco up on Johns Prairie. Great company here, and had a chance to meet with Bill Staley from Belco, and some really good conversations about the need to improve workforce development initiatives, both here locally and then statewide. And as they look to expand in the future, the question that they're asking, and I'm sure a lot of other businesses are asking, are where are we going to find employees to fill these jobs? And so, if I could bring back one message from that tour is that we should definitely continue to engage in the workforce development conversation, and it's a critical part of continuing to build our local economy and regional economy as well. And so, thanks to Bill for taking the time, as well as Jim Pentney for arranging the tour for me last week. I had a great time. We've had budget briefings since then, and we'll continue that process tomorrow morning. Following that, I'll be swinging by the 4-H fair at the Shelton Civic Center. Later this week, I have Sheriff's Breakfast, then Drug Court graduation, Rotary in there. I'll be attending an event for Representative McEwen next week, as well as our briefings, and then back for our meeting on Tuesday morning.
Mr. Chair, I'd also like to announce I'll be attending the 4-H ice cream social as well.
Can't pass up ice cream.
No.
Okay, and then since it is past 6:30, we can move on to item 10.1, which is our public hearing to consider approving the private line occupancy permit for a new utilities coring under North Shore Road for 5181 Northeast North Shore Road, tax parcel number 22210-52-01905, and I would invite staff forward to brief.
I don't know that we've ever had the director do one of these before. Have you? No, I don't remember
Giving
either.
staff the day off?
Yeah, I've certainly done it before.
Yeah.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Marshall Walsh, the owner of the property at 5181 North Shore, has requested a permit for a new water line and sewage transport line under North Shore. 5181 is just beyond the Elfindale Pass Road on North Shore as you're going out. And this is a voluntary upgrade to her drain field, improving setback considerations and a reserve field. So this is the process to do this, and staff supports it.
Okay, very good. Are there any questions for staff?
None.
Okay, hearing no questions for staff, I would now open the public comment period. If you'd like to make comment on item 10.1, please come forward, state your name, and the chair will recognize you. Okay, with that, I will close the public comment portion, and we can move to commissioner discussion and a potential motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that the board approve the private line occupancy permit for the new utilities crossing under North Shore Road for 5181 Northeast North Shore Road, tax parcel number 22210-52-01905.
And I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded that the board approve the private line occupancy permit for a new utilities crossing under North Shore Road for 5181 Northeast North Shore Road, tax parcel number 22210-52-01905. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. And moves us to item number 12 for adjournment.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we're adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.